This is the story of how Tanana Chiefs Conference, in support of breastfeeding, created a new breastfeeding policy and designated spaces to help support that. After meeting with a stakeholder group and completing a staff survey, we conducted an environmental scan to see where we were at. Concerns with existing spaces, including access through the restroom and coded entries with no access to the code. Concerns with some of those shared space issues was also something we found. Locations that were being used as lactation spaces included boardrooms and other office locations that were multi-use and not exactly the most comfortable places for breastfeeding moms. Not all included a locking door or all of the amenities that are required for a lactation space. Some of those areas that were being converted into lactation spaces didn't have sanitizable surfaces. And some of the storage areas were a little awkward. And most unfortunate were those who were still using the restroom to pump their milk.
I'm Jerry Simon, Corporate Compliance and Risk Officer, and as a part of my role, I oversee the policy review process. Folks have new policies to introduce. They bring it to the policy committee and we work through the process. And their work was based upon not only the need within TCC, but to be in compliance with the state law and creating spaces for breastfeeding moms. So with their presentation, we went through the law, we went through their plans, and then we looked at their policy to define the spaces that were being asked to create, how much square footage, what kind of money are we talking about to put these up. And then as we went through the process with the review committee, we kept sending questions back with Jennifer and Kim, and a part of it is then, once we figured out what size spaces we needed, was to define who was going to pay for the spaces and what those spaces cost. And once we went through that process, the policy was approved. It's been in the works for a couple of years. I'm glad to see that it's moving forward and we're close to implementation. One of the tenets behind TCC's values and operations is Chiwitzen, which means to hear us. And it was part of that process is hear us, meaning listen to us. And we heard from our employees that there was a need for a breastfeeding space. We have over 1,000 employees, and about more than half are female and young working mothers. And so we heard from those folks that they needed a space. I was super happy with Jennifer and Kim Blood's plans to push forward with this breastfeeding policy and space to allow us to meet the need, and also to really enforce that we are a family-friendly environment. So I'm very excited to see that it is being implemented so that we can support that. But it really goes back to us listening to our employees and saying, we heard you. Here you go.
This lactation space was remodeled with its own entry and not accessing through the women's bathroom as it was before. It also got some new furniture and a nice little facelift. This shows the restroom that used to access the lactation space. Can't go through there anymore. Lactation spaces were also built into our new construction area. Our clinic had an expansion, and this is an example of the new lactation space that was built in. It has all of the amenities, a nice comfortable spot, a table, chair, an electrical outlet, and a sink.
My name is Amber Vasca, and I'm the Executive Director for Tribal Government and Client Services here at TCC. So I'm a mom of 2 children. One's 11 and one is now 3.5. And before the breastfeeding policy came about, I was here at TCC with my second child and was really dedicated to breastfeeding her. I mean, it's something that's not comfortable to talk to your supervisor with, especially if you're a female and they're a male, to talk about breastfeeding and making time and finding space that works. Before this policy came in, one of the biggest barriers, at least for me, was not quite here at TCC, but when we had TCC events at hotels, we would be like, oh, there's a nice couch in the bathroom that you can breastfeed. And I know the policy more addresses here in the workplace, but that was part of the reasoning I wanted to be on the breastfeeding work group and get this policy through, so that every employee, whether they've been here or they're thinking about working here, knows that TCC is family friendly. We want our babies to have whatever direction the moms want to do. There's breastfeeding works for some moms, it doesn't work for all, but if you do make the choice to breastfeed, we're a family-friendly workplace and we'll support that breastfeeding. So I'm super excited that we're gonna have a place dedicated for breastfeeding, and I just think it's a great step for our employees and for our families out there and for our moms, and just wanted to share that.
Next steps in support of the Tanana Chiefs Conference breastfeeding policy is the lactation pods. Those have been purchased and they are on the way. We're excited to see the new lactation pods in place here at Tanana Chiefs Conference. There are 4 being placed in 3 different buildings here in Fairbanks.